Management, Erica Payne, a political strategist, and in D.C., Fox contributor Nina Easton. Nina, I want to start with you. Is anybody really surprised by this? I mean, you know, the guy has shown such bad judgment all the way along.
Are you starting with me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes, Nina, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's more than bad judgment. I find what's fascinating, Jerry, is that you look at this guy and you think, how could he live with himself all these years? How could he live with himself knowing what he knew? And what we find out from these interviews is that he's a clinical narcissist. He's
worse than that.
Worse than that, well, criminal mind, but a real narcissist, in that he talks about how he's so put upon that he's the victim because of all this, the fact that he had to carry these lies around with him, oh, poor me, and the fact that these people were throwing money at him and he had to invest it, and it just, the fact that he can't bring himself out of his own
Nina,
being,
let me read this quote directly
is
from
shocking.
Bernie. He says, I carried them, meaning his clients. I carried them for 20 years, and now I'm doing 150 years. You know, Erica, I have no sympathy. I'm sorry. It looks like he's trying to get sympathy out of people, but I don't feel that.
Yeah, I have no sympathy either, but I would just extend it outside of Bernie Madoff onto most of the CEOs of the big banks on Wall Street who took really reckless risks, out of control risks, and brought down the economy. And what they've tried to say to us is, well, we paid you back the $750 billion, and so, you know, we're out.
Totally
when the fact of the matter is, they cost about $13 trillion to the economy. So the same way that the oil spill.
Than Bernie Madoff. Doug, let me get to you, because, you know, there's criminal activity, out and out ripping people off and running a Ponzi scheme, and then there's being way too aggressive in the way you run your business. Two different things. What would you tell people out there? Because there's another Bernie Madoff just waiting to be discovered right now.
No doubt. There's a lot of things that can be done, and nobody's really addressing them. But I think this sounds like, you know, tough talk inside of a prison cell more than anything else. But to me, it's easy to beat on the people that are greedy. I think what the feedback that he gets is just that, you know, you took money from a bunch of rich, greedy people, and they deserve everything they get. Unfortunately, what that feeling in prison sort of translates outside as well. That's kind of the theme outside of prison as well, which I think is unfortunate.
All right. Well, let's go to the next story.
Can I make a response? I'd love to
Nina,
respond to this. We're going to compare Bernie Madoff to CEOs of America's companies. That's astonishing. You're saying they're crooks and that they conducted a giant Ponzi scheme. I mean, the major bank CEOs have paid back any loans with interest to the American people, and that message doesn't. They actually have.
There was $750 billion that we had to spend to bail out the banks themselves.
All right, ladies.
However, there was a $13 trillion damage to the economy. So in the same way, the oil spill
on the responsibility of Wall Street CEOs. I have to say, I'm with Nina on this one. I don't think you can compare Madoff to CEOs, but there's a bigger and possibly more important story for your wallet out there, and that's the IMF. Forecasting that by 2012, the U.S. debt will surpass that of the GDP, meaning we'll owe more than we produce. All right, let's go back to the panel here. Doug, this is right up here.